I should be like you, Mel.
Ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, welcome to Up the Cherries in all departments and Cherry AM. Good to have you with us. Now, before we get going, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button below. It does help this channel to grow. We do have my main man next to me as well from this show. Of course, it is the one, it is the only Mr. Ollie Hudson. How are you doing, Ollie?
Hey, Craig. Yeah, very well. Thank you, mate. Very well. How are you?
Fantastic. Yes, I'm very, very well, mate. And
Good.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful morning down here in Bournemouth. So yes, it's gonna be a good one. Hopefully, gonna be a good one.
Good.
But
Good.
yes,
Good to hear.
fantastic. And we do have quite a lot of fans as well in the chat. Matt was up nice and early, 7:50. He said, "Morning all." Malcolm said, "Good morning, Matt." Matt, smash those like buttons. It means a lot to us. If you haven't done so already, subscribe and then hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Make sure you do that. If you are watching on Twitch or Instagram this morning, somehow I've managed to do it on Instagram, albeit it was very much last minute. I didn't really know what I was doing. If it's not working on Instagram, hey, not to worry, but somebody who's watching it on that platform, let us know. But yeah, hopefully, come over to the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe. Matt said good morning to Malcolm. I didn't see the game, but how did Dino get on? Malcolm's replied, Dino had a really decent game, looks easy for him, reads the game so well. Even when Real Madrid went down to 10 men. And he got a 7.8 rating, but man of the match was Courtois in goal. Brilliant performance. I don't know what the score was, to be honest. I didn't really follow it. I haven't been following this Club World Cup thing. All I know is that Auckland City FC have conceded 16 goals in 2 matches. It's quite impressive, really. 10 against Bayern, 6 against Benfica. Yeah, I think they're going home, unfortunately for them, but they are part-timers, so hey. Thought you would have said that. I watched his first game, and you thought he was years older and played for them for a long time. Good luck to him. Yeah, I did watch that one, but I didn't watch yesterday's one. Hi guys, Paul from Oz watching 5 p.m.
Nice.
Monday night. Hello, Paul. You all right? Hope you're doing well. His day's almost finished, so it's crazy to think, isn't it? We've got another Paul. Paul Sant. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Paul. Hope you're doing well. And Malcolm said good morning, Craig, Ollie, and everyone else in the chat. And it was 3-1 to Real Madrid. Right, cool. There we are. Now, this might be the last time that we discuss this. Might not as well, because we might do an ad hoc video where we discuss, the impact he had at AFC Bournemouth and so on and such like. But Milos Kerkez looks like it's pretty much done, Ollie. What do you know?
It does indeed, yeah, it does indeed. And I think for some Cherries fans, it might be a nice thing that this is the last time we're talking about it, right? It's not a nice thing for us to be going through as a team. Obviously, a player that we wanted to keep anyway. So the fact that it's been prolonged the way that it has, for me, is a bit unnecessary. But it looks like it's all coming to an end this week, dependent on medicals, which I imagine there is no doubt in my mind Kerkez will absolutely pass. But it looks like the agreed sale of 40 million. There are a couple of bonuses in there to take it up to 43.4. But yeah, sporting director Richard Hughes, who is formerly Bournemouth, is all over it. He's driving it as quick as he can over the weekend, and I think he's of a similar thought process on this. I think he wants to get it tied up now. Florian Wirtz is in the team. He's really created a squad at Liverpool that looks a tough one to deal with this season.
He was the man that got Kerkez in. He was the man that kind of directed that. And he's the man that's going to be taking Kerkez away from AFC Bournemouth. I'm gutted about the transfer fee. I think it could be a bit more, especially as what we're going to come on to in a moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But, I think it could be a bit more. But Richard Hughes did a fantastic job getting him in. And we can't begrudge Milos Kerkez this move. He is going to the Premier League champions. He's not going to Burnley or Crystal Palace or Brentford. He is going to a side who are going to be competing at the top table.
Exactly. And touching on what you just said there, given that exact point, it should be more, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
it really should be. Going to the champions. They've worked hard. Kerkez is, although he's following or being poached by Richard Hughes. Mm-hmm. If you're comparing Dean's at 50s, Zaba's at 60 pluses for PSG, and then what we're about to come on to, which again is outstanding amounts of money, I think Kerkez is a loss for 40 million. Although he's been brilliant for us, we should have got more for sure.
100%. Max Cowlard is with us. Hope you're doing well, Max, and keeping well. And he said, "Where's Scott the Bin Man Parker?" Malcolm's come straight back though with Burnley. Yes. Although I say that, Brentford are meant to be interested in Scott Parker to replace Thomas Frank. Now, this could be absolute rubbish. As we all know, with all these rumours, it could be absolute rubbish. But it seems like Brentford are missing the championship.
Yeah, wow.
Scott's the man to take them back there if they do. So, said last week he was underpriced. Yeah, completely. And actually, it makes it even bigger considering what was announced this morning. And it was quite interesting. It was on Talk Sports show with Shabana Hearn and Troy Deeney. Ollie Klink, who I spoke to the other day, was on there. And they were talking about Antoine Semenyo and this link with Spurs. Spurs, it is understood, and again, I wouldn't confirm anything until, Mark McAdam comes out with it. Supposedly, Spurs have made an inquiry into AFC Bournemouth for Semenyo, and the price looks like it's going to be around the 17 million mark, which is a huge chunk. Now, in all honesty, Antoine is a great player. He's an outstanding player for us. He's one of my favourite players. But 70 million, we're going to have to listen to this, aren't we?
Absolutely, we are. Yeah, it'd be a real struggle, and I think a silly move not to listen to it. I think how much is your squad worth at the end of the day, right? When you have the players like Dean's, Zabas, Kerkez, Semenyos, Evan Nilsson at 40 million. We have to start letting them go if there's money being thrown around like 70 million, right? And then if we now look at the transfer period and the money that we've made, we're talking close to 220 million pound that we've transferred out. So if we're going to consider making those moves and making that much money on these players, we have to consider some much bigger recruitment. We have to be up in our game. If we're going to be the selling club and people still going to come through to us, and we're still going to let these players go, as if we are with Semenyo, then we have to be purchasing bigger players. We cannot just be harnessing and nurturing players to sell them off, because we're going to have a surplus of cash that we're not going to be allowed to spend because of financial fair play rules next season. So we have to be spending it. If we're going to make it, we've got to spend it. We can't be stacking it.
Malcolm's made a very, very good point. If it's 70 million, how can Milos go for 40 million? He is underpriced. Of course, I absolutely love Semenyo. I think that Iriola as well, though, has got the best out of him. Now, will Thomas Frank, if he goes to Spurs, will Thomas Frank get the best out of him? That is the big question for me, because he blew hot and cold at Bristol City. Now, I can't remember who was the Bristol City manager that he was under, but it could well be that he will excel under certain managers, and Andoni's got the best out of him. This is what I was saying the other day. Sometimes be careful what you wish for. Justin Kluivert, being a bit of a journeyman until he's got to Bournemouth, should probably have stayed at Ajax a little bit longer. Could have probably got to a bigger club than both Bournemouth and Bayer Leverkusen, had he done that method. But, hey, we're pleased he did take that route, because, of course, he's played for us. Semenyo going to Spurs and then flopping could actually be detrimental to his career.
100%.
There's no proof. There's no confirmation. Frank might have been successful at Brentford, but there's no guarantees he's going to be successful at Spurs as well.
No, and I think there's a qualification and a limit on successful, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't trophy winning successful. Yes, he did well, but he's moved to a team like Tottenham. And sorry for any Tottenham fans that might be listening or watching this at some point, but I don't think they're the club for players to go and excel at. They just aren't. You see the likes of Harry Kane leaving. Son's been there for God knows how long, and he's not an outstanding player in the Premier League anymore. He was for a season or two, but people just whittle away with Tottenham. They're not an explosive team. They're not an exciting team. There's nothing pushing them for championships. There's nothing pushing them for top four races. It's been the same for as long as I can remember with Tottenham, at least. So, unfortunately for me, Tottenham is a bit of a pipe dream for some of our players. It was a bit for Solanke. I think it was a great move for Solanke, but it's definitely not the right move for Semenyo. No way. Not in any way, shape or form in my mind is this a good move for Semenyo.
Well, there's other options, if the rumours are to be believed, are Manchester United, which, let's be honest, that's a complete case. Although I was reading that some players are actually desperate to go there. I don't know why. Or Newcastle. Now, I could see that one. I could understand that. I could understand Newcastle. And
I could understand Newcastle. And I can understand the want for a United, because, they've had a bad season. Doesn't mean they're going to stay there. There is some reform taking place.
Bad 10 years, to be honest.
Well, they've consistently been going down, but it was noticeable, right? It was worldwide noticeable this season when they're, bottom half of the table in the Premier League. They're losing left, right, and centre. Much more noticeable. And I just feel like people may see them in a period of transition at the moment. So. Yeah. It might be that they're on an upturn soon. Who knows? But I think Tottenham out of those, Newcastle out of those three options are without a doubt the best one for Semenyo if he was going to go.
Paul has said that it was reported last week in Australia that Thomas Frank's top target was Semenyo. 70 million was the price spoken. So I don't think it's that newer news, from what I understand. Of course, you see it on all these other websites, and you think, you know, it gets to silly season, doesn't it? And we get linked to absolutely everybody. To be honest, I know Vishnu comes on and asks about Cristiano Ronaldo. It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, in this sort of climate, if, we were linked to Cristiano Ronaldo, he wouldn't sign for Bournemouth in a million years. Neither, I don't think we'd really want him at his stage of his career. But, even though the man is a machine, but, coming back to it, there's so much guff that is put around that it's like, yeah, half of it I don't believe. Matt said 70 million sell and reinvest. Got for around 10 million. Yep, we certainly did. I think it was it 8? Yeah, I think it was a little bit less than 10 million, actually.
Which is crazy. That's crazy.
Can't snub a 60 million pound profit. Love him, but got to look at that. I don't know if there's a sell-on clause to Bristol City. Don't know whether or not they'll get that. Strikers always go for more money. Poor Andoni, I think it's his birthday as well. It was yesterday. So happy birthday, Andoni Iraola. And United could be an attractive rebuild plan if they get it right. But,
100%.
Let's be honest, I don't think they have. The next big thing, though, we've got the house and money coming in. Of course, 15 million, do correct me if I'm wrong, has to go to Juventus. And I think out of that 15 million, Juventus have to give a certain amount to the club prior to that. Also, Milos Kerkez, I don't know if there is a sell-on clause to AZ Alkmaar. I don't think there is. But of course, so we have got effectively 40 plus 35. So there's 75 already. We sell Zabania and Semenyo. We are talking ridiculous amounts of money. Now, ridiculous amounts of money is, here we are. Malcolm's got it spot on. So of that fee that we have to give to Juventus, they have to give 5 million to his previous club who they signed him from. So
yeah, and just to confirm, no sell-on clause for Kerkez.
No sell-on clause for
Nothing
Kerkez.
whatsoever. Nope.
Perfect. So, yes, we're going to have this massive pot of money. The next big question, though, for me is, what do we spend this money on? Now, we could spend this money on rebuilding the squad as we have done, get low cost signings in, players that maybe nobody's really heard of, and bring them in, and Andoni works with them. That's option number one. Option number two is that we do, like you say, spend on some bigger name players, but they might not always pull off. And I was worried, I'll be honest, Ollie, I was worried when we spent 40 million on Evan Nielsen. I thought, this is a lot of money for this football club to spend if it doesn't come off. The third option is that, and I don't think we'd spend the whole lot on this, but we spend it on the infrastructure and we do up Dean Court and we make Dean Court, or what we could call a new Dean Court, expand the stadium, with this cash. And therefore it means that in the long run, because stadium costs aren't actually included in PSR, we might have a little bit more to play with. So there is those three options. Which one would you go with? Would you go with the proven players in the Premier League? Would you go with the same sort of style of finding these youngsters, bringing them in? Or would you go with the stadium renovations and then maybe some, smaller signings, knowing that maybe the league form might dip a little bit next season?
So normally my standard answer, given the current circumstances and the money that's coming in, I would have absolutely looked to have maybe strengthened the squad with 2 or 3 to 5 year contracted good Premier League players. However, coming on to the next segment, which we would have discussed in a minute, is the pathway stuff, the academy backing, Category 1 moving, the vision and view that we've got of the club and how we've been built as
Yeah.
a club over the last 10 years, it would be silly and a bit ridiculous of us to change tactics now, change strategy now. So I think we have to continue to keep faith, and we have to continue to back our younger players, our recruitment department, our development squads, our coaches, the senior leadership team, all the way up to Bill and Jim, and they need to. We need to have faith in it, and I think as long as we continue to do that, the money will be spent appropriately. Where that goes, I can't have an opinion on yet. But in Bournemouth, I trust for sure, and I think that we've got some really, really exciting development players coming through the academy. We've got some really exciting partnerships going on with other teams across the world. We've got initiatives being built left, right, and centre. So I think, from a squad backing opinion, yes, we should be investing money, but I think there's a longer term plan here. So I don't think panic station should be hit immediately.
No, 100%. Malcolm said, I would never bring in big name players, stick with what we do best.
Yeah, exactly that.
I think so. To be honest, it's always good when we unearth a gem. I'm sure that Thiago Pinto and Simon Francis have got that shopping list ready. They're ready to go. They're ready to bring in these new players that maybe we might not have heard of. But, let's be honest, they've done pretty well so far. Paul said the money is already there for the stadium, I believe. So, yes, I believe it is. But what I mean by that is we could offset that money that we've got segregated for the stadium. We could offset that, and therefore, it doesn't, if we spend, 130 million in this window, it is going to have an effect on PSR. Whereas if we spend 40 million, but then the other 90 million on the stadium and doing the stadium up to a top notch, then it won't. But also, I think over a 3-year period, I'm not an expert. It would be something that Kieran Maguire would probably be best to answer. But over a 3-year period, what it would mean is that stadium, or that what we'd be able to spend on the players, I should say, will be far greater. So again, that's a very, very interesting point. But yeah, the money is there for the stadium. Paul in Oz said, hope we don't spend hyped up prices in the market. Now we know we have funds. Yep, completely agree. Matt said, trust the recruitment. The scouting recruitment has been excellent. Trust what we have done previously. Invest in infrastructure. Yeah, I completely understand. And there is other ways of investing in infrastructure than just a stadium. Some of this could fund the Grade 1 Academy. And this is possibly the biggest thing for us. And good morning, Joe. It's not a problem. You can always watch it back. So even though we are live, go and watch it back.
And just a bit of information on that Grade 1 Academy. So I'm not sure if everyone knows exactly how it works, but again, if you haven't watched the pathway, please go back and revisit the pathway, because you'll gain all the information. You'll learn all about the academy players, the coaching and development squad, and our route to Category 1 Academy, which at the moment, everyone will be happy to know, doesn't need any more funding or investment, doesn't need any more building or infrastructure. It is there and ready. We are currently, we need to wait for the next season to start before we can have our Category 1 audit, which will happen anywhere between September and December. And it's exactly like a school audit, right? So they'll let AFC Bournemouth know about 10 days before, and it'll be a 5-day thorough audit on everything that the academy is doing. And the only reason that we've gone for that now, ready for the 25-26 season, is because we believe that we can pass that Category 1 audit. We won't know that. We won't know if we passed it until the end of the season. And they'll either say, yes, you've gained Category 1 for 26-27, or no, and we dust ourselves off and go again for the next season.
An academy also is not cheap in itself.
No.
And dare I say it, for a Premier League club, it's pretty, it's pretty important. And it costs about 3 million at this current rate to actually run that academy. That's without taking into account the staffing costs, because you need all the top coaches, you need all the people that know exactly what we're doing. I think, it will be such an asset as soon as we can start getting some of those players coming through, playing for our first team, or even players that don't make it in our first team, but then go to the championship for a fee. That will pay for itself. That 3 million will pay for itself.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to take maybe a little bit of a hit on that for a period of time. But being in the Premier League really means that we can do that. However, if we ever go down to the Championship, or touch wood, this will never happen, but lower, then that's where these Category 1 academies do, kind of become a burden. So this is why I think that Southampton might struggle in the long run if they are going to stay in the Championship for a prolonged period of time. They kept it going when they went into League One years ago, A, because of the costs at the time, but B, because they weren't in League One for very long. So what we've got to do is we've just got to make sure that we scale this at a reasonable rate, but we can attract the top players in this area. And we've probably got, you look at the catchment area, we've got great catchment area. We've got the whole of Devon, we've got the whole of Dorset, we've got the whole of Wiltshire pretty much, Somerset. We've got such a good catchment area. And let's be honest, if you've got two academies, I know Southampton's was one of the best in the country at one point, but if you've got two academies, you've got Southampton on one hand, Bournemouth on the other. You look outside into the Bournemouth skyline, you see the beach, you see how beautiful it is. Are you going to want to go to Southampton? Let's be honest. The best road in Southampton is either the M27 or the M3.
Well, out.
Yeah, the road's out. Yeah.
And again, just to touch on that, like the academy that we're building, is it's next level. It's rivaling the best academies in the Premier League. So we're going to be at that stage, and I think that although that we've seen a real fast period of growth, and it might be, concerning or a bit anxiety feeling for some people, just you have to ride the journey and be positive with this, because this is all heading in the right direction. Whether we keep Iriola, whether we lose Iriola, whether we keep our best players, lose our best players, this is going to be a journey over the next 5 to 10 years that we just have to ride and stick on, really, and it's going to be enjoyable.
Paul in Oz has said he didn't see Simon Francis at the fans forum online. Maybe he was, but probably working hard under the radar, doing his job for new arrivals. So yeah, I'm sure he is. To be honest, Frano works tirelessly. I know that much. He's really. It was quite good, that he got that opportunity when he did by Richard Hughes moving on. Because I think Richard Hughes passed on a lot of his knowledge and a lot of his skill to Frano. And Thiago coming in as well has been key to this.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I was going to bring this up. And again, please do go back and watch The Pathway, because the amount of references from senior leadership like Frano, like Alan Connell, Stanislas, Elphick, all of them singing the praises of Eddie Howe, and just the determination and the drive and the high intensity and the pace and the level of football and the level of character and the level of attribution that people should be giving to this football game. Yeah, it sounds like it's all been instilled in this football club and in the coaching staff and the development staff from Eddie Howe, and it's. Honestly, mate, it's so nice to hear. Episodes 4 and 5, there were so many references to Eddie and the legacy that he's left behind and the vision that he created. And there was a point in it where some of the academy lads were playing at Bournemouth Electric,
Oh
near the
yes,
airport.
yeah.
And I think the academy director at the time, I can't remember his name, Sean something, and he took a video of it all being, filled with mud, and it was just really terrible. And this is 2012, this isn't that long ago. And then presenting it to Eddie and him kicking off and saying, no, it's not good enough for the lads, and you can just see where the passion has been instilled in our club, and it's just so good to hear that a lot of these players and a lot of these coaches bring it back to the initial learnings and teachings from Eddie, which is awesome for me.
100%. And do you know what? The man needs a statue. The man needs a statue. He is a legend at this football club and will always be. Malcolm said, let's stay positive. We are being very, very positive this morning, Malcolm, albeit, I was going on about Semenyo and Kerkez and, what do we do next? Apologies, But Eddie Howe deserves a statue at Dean Court. I honestly think that, when we do these renovations and we start expanding these stands, there should be one. There should be one. Yeah. Some people might turn around to me and say, well, statues. Well, no, to be honest, at the Emirates, you've got statues of some of the players who were part of their Invincibles squad. But, most people will say, well, statues are normally for people that are dead. But, Eddie Howe is a living legend at this football club, and he has achieved so much in such a small space of time, for this football team, taking us from -17 all the way to the Premier League. And, the pathway, that wouldn't be possible without Eddie. Andoni Iraola wouldn't be here possible without Eddie.
The purchase of the club, the vision of it, everything stemmed from Eddie, the whole lot.
Exactly. And, you look at, hey, if we had stayed with Jimmy Quinn a little bit longer, we would have probably still had Jimmy Quinn and Dog, as company here. So, Eddie Howe is an absolute legend. Paul from Oz says, totally agree. I tell you what, this is something that maybe we should start doing. This may be something that we should start doing. We should start, petitioning and trying to get it out there.
Well,
he needs a statue.
The thing is it has just been mentioned on one of the comments by Paul. Trouble is, Newcastle will probably have one for him as well. It says in the comments.
Hey, they can have their one.
He's being put forward for the Key to the City award. What is it called? Do you see? What Harry Kane got for London and Klopp got for Liverpool?
He's already got the keys to Bournemouth. You don't need the keys to
I imagine Newcastle is a bit more expansive than Bournemouth for him.
Yeah,
but,
true.
I believe he is going up for the award for that for Newcastle. Freedom of the City. That's it, Malcolm.
Freedom of the City. There we are. There we are. Perhaps a one-off football match to see who has it. No, I think we should. He deserves his statue here. Let's be honest. We might not even be a football club if it wasn't for Eddie Howe. And there we are. You're a mind reader, Craig. I'll sign it. Eddie's a Bournemouth boy. Yes. I tell you what. I'm thinking we should do this, and we're going to really, really press for this. We're really going to press for this. Right. Everybody in the comments, if you want an Eddie Howe statue, put Eddie Howe statue in the comments, right? Anybody who's watching this after, put Eddie Howe statue. And you can do this on Instagram or wherever. We have got a load of people on Instagram. I'm so sorry that I can't see your comments pop up on the screen. But if you do come over to the main channel, so UTC, IAD, AFCB, you will be able to comment live, and we really would love your comments as well. I'll give a shout out to some of the people that have joined us. So we've got Paul Belveston. Hello, Paul Belveston. Hope you're doing well, mate. Danny Morgan, Liam Humby. We've got Josh. We got AFCB fan page. We got Luca. We got Susan Howe. We've got South Coast Matt. We got Nelly Vision, Simeon, Tommy Freeman, and we've got Max as well. Yeah. Thank you for all joining us on Instagram. Come join us as well on YouTube. Just in case I don't know how to do that again, I'm quite pleased it's happened. It's worked today. So Eddie Howe Statue, Paul Sand has put. Malcolm's put Eddie Howe Statue. Joe has said Eddie Howe Statue. Paul from Oz has said Eddie Howe Statue. Matt's given a lot more of an elaborate answer. Eddie already has the freedom of the borough of Bournemouth, so statue is the next thing. If not at the ground, at least find somewhere in the town. Yeah,
The academy.
Actually, great idea.
Right in front of the academy for everyone to aspire to see.
Yeah, most definitely. I tell you what, let's finish off on the pathway, because I know that you wanted to speak in a little bit more detail about that, and I've rattled on about Eddie Howe statues. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. And I think I think I've covered most of it. As we've been talking and going backwards and forwards. Some of the biggest things that stood out really were they achieved broke history, just like the first team did, the youth club. They had the longest winning streak in group youth football this season and finished the best that they've ever done in their table. I think that youth club cup is awesome. I think it's a fantastic thing for teams to be a part of. There were some great games in the pathway that I watched over yesterday, which again, please do go back and watch it. I know I've said it a couple of times, but if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. Spend your weekend watching it. Watch an episode each night over these evenings. It's bloody good. It's worth your time.
Yeah.
But yeah, separate to that, it's just you can see the dedication and the effort and the vision that was instilled by Eddie, over the last 6 to 10 years, for people like Junior Stanislas, for people like Tommy Elphick, for people like Simon Francis, and it's just been instilled in them. For me, it was a fantastic watch. And it really showed a kind of a clear identity of who we are as Cherries fans and who you have to be becoming a Bournemouth player, really. So that was the last bits for me on the pathway. But I wanted to finish up on your Talk Sports segments, mate. We've got a couple of minutes left. We've had 3 Talk Sports segments in the last week. One of them was from me, but 2 of them in the last few days were from you.
Yes. Just very quickly, Malcolm said statue on the Bear Cross roundabout. If it's got to be between Newcastle and Bournemouth, they're going to have to put it in Birmingham, but I don't know why we put it there. I think we'll just have our own, and Newcastle can just do what they want to do. But yes, the segments on Talk Sports. So fantastic segment by yourself. That was a couple of weeks back, wasn't it?
It was, 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah, excellent. And
then you had one on Thursday and one on yesterday morning. So yesterday morning was with Tony Pescarino and
Natalie Sawyer. Natalie Sawyer, the lovely Natalie Sawyer. She's been on this show a couple of times, actually. And then it was on Saturday. And funny enough, I was down the beach with my mate, who you well know as well. Hello, Jamie. But we was having a couple of beers, and then a message come through. Can you come on TalkSport? So I was like, yes, that's fine. So I come straight back, did the show, and then went back for a couple of more beers. But hopefully everybody really, really enjoyed those, and really, I made some good points on that. I am quite modest when it comes to this sort of thing, because I don't like to speak for everybody. I think that it's wrong of me to say, I speak for all Bournemouth fans. No, most definitely don't. We're not all as negative as I am sometimes. But
no, I think, to give you credit, both were very good. Saturdays was tough. I feel like it was a lot harder than yesterday's, but yesterday's was a great little discussion around some of the logistics behind the business of football, behind some of the transfers. And again, mate, I think you held your own, which is fantastic. And just again, for any listeners, we're going to be essentially trying to do more of those, or try and get more of those Talk Sports segments in your ears and in your face. So do look out for them moving forward.
and TalkSport have given us all full authority to use any clips that we're involved in on the channel as well. So there is a little playlist. If you go onto the playlist tab, you'll be able to find there is a TalkSport bit as well. I won't backdate them. I know that there's quite a few that I did with Jim White and Simon Jordan back in the day, especially when Gary O'Neill was sacked. I know I come out with some silly things about Andoni Iraola at one point. Everybody makes mistakes. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. It was daft to me, really, wasn't it?
What you're saying is we'll only post them from here on now so that you hear the good stuff.
Yeah, you hear the good stuff, the positive stuff, and we can forget the Jesse Marsh idea. We can forget, the Gary O'Neill loving. We can forget, Andoni, the style isn't going to work. Andoni's not good enough, all that rubbish, because I think he most definitely is. And actually, we're talking about a statue for Eddie. Hey, could it well be a statue for Andoni, in a couple of years' time as well, next to it?
Yeah.
I'll help you with your script. Cheers, Malcolm. But yes, I think that pretty much covers everything. Please do go watch those videos. Really, really proud of them. Do give us a subscribe, give us a like if you're watching on Instagram or on Twitch. I know that we're on Twitch. I know it's a gaming platform mainly, but hey, I put it on there anyway.
Yeah.
But we will be back tomorrow with some more Cherries news. We probably won't mention Kerkez again, apart from the one video. But yes, from me and from Ollie, thank you again. We shall see you tomorrow morning.
Thanks, guys.
And now I need to find the exit screen. Do you know what? A little bit behind the times this morning.
Yeah, have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day, everyone.
Cheers.
Up the cherries.
TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Mel.